The effect I fear is that it just gives boys a free pass.
No, fuck no. Come on. Don't. Okay. I was willing to be nice to Zach Wagner up until this point. He's just trying to say that the book is just giving boys a free pass. Like, fuck no. The book is all about how young boys should not be having promiscuous sex or committing sexual assault, I guess more specifically, or looking at porn. What do you... Why are they trying so hard to try and lie to say that the book was trying to do the opposite of what it actually does? You can argue all you want that every young man's battle is like sloppy or whatever else have you. That's fine. Those criticisms might be a little bit more open for discussion. But to say that the Stoeker and Arturburn are trying to say that sex outside of marriage or lust or anything like that is okay is a complete bald-faced lie.
So here is a quote. Here's how Steve Arturburn explains what this book is for. You are a sexual being and deserve to know what's right and true about your sexuality so you can have the greatest chance possible for a fantastic sexual relationship with the person you marry. Okay. So this is
into that one as well.
Oh yes. Go ahead.
Basically the thought that sexuality is intercourse, that sexuality, basically the definition is, he's saying it's about orgasm. It's about selfish pleasure rather than shared intimacy, shared connection, right? Like the actual stuff that we.
Okay, this is where it got extra uncharitable. I'm glad that I re-listened to this part right here because damn it, the book was not exclusive towards the idea of women taking pleasure in their husband. I do not know where you get that from the one excerpt that she read. Yeah, the book is for exclusively, well, maybe not exclusively, wrong wording. Yes, the book is for men, but it's not trying to say this is correct exclusively for men. That women cannot take sexual pleasure in their man. It wasn't saying that at all, especially not in the excerpt that you read right there, and not by what I remember of any excerpts that I read myself in the book. It's not exclusive to the idea of women taking pleasure in sex with their husband. I do not know where that Andy gets this. It's just frustrating.
We long for, right? Because the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. We are longing to be connected. And when you minimize...
That's what Stoeker and Arturburn were encouraging in that excerpt.
The young boy then did a very courageous thing. He approached his father and said, "Dad, I just feel like taking off my clothes and standing in front of a girl naked."
So
what's with the reaction right there? I mean, yeah, the book is trying to bring forth all the examples to try and emphasize the brevity and severity of this issue right here. I mean, is that so wrong? It's like if a history book talking about World War II was to go into detail about how the Nazis killed the Jews during the Holocaust and so forth. And then somebody is all like, goes cringing at that. It's like, you got a problem with that? I mean, history is ugly. And in this case, sexual immorality and porn addiction is ugly. What are you going to do about it? You really want every single writer to be holding back? Like, yeah, if the book is trying to talk about, if the book writers and the book itself is trying to talk to 12-year-olds and preteens, then sure, maybe it should hold back a bit. But on the general topic of talking to anybody who is like over 16, should it really hold back? No.
If that's the case, right, that would be voyeurism.
Exhibitionism, technically, yes.
There you go, yes.
Yes.
That would be, sorry, you're right. Exhibitionism, that would be a crime.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that Arturburn and Stoeker were encouraging that? I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to say that the guy is saying that Stoeker and Arturburn were encouraging that, but just the way that he says that in response to the book excerpt that was just read right there about the young boy saying, hey, Dad, I have the urge to get naked in front of a girl or whatever. It's like the way that Andy said it right there, it just came off as way too overcombative regardless to Stoeker and Arturburn.
So there's a lot.
I mean, yeah, duh. We all know that's exhibitionism. You don't have to. No shit, Sherlock. We get it. We already know.
Who is speaking here?
I believe that this one was Fred Stoeker explaining how he used to watch pornography. So one of the authors.
And if he doesn't deal with his pornographic mindset, if he doesn't deal with his pornographic style of relating, he's literally, in a sense, just promoting this really toxic view of both femininity and masculinity.
I cannot remember word for word of the book again, but the idea that I got from the book was that he did get under control and even snuff out his own porn addiction. So what the fuck are you going on about, dude? Yeah, he got a handle of it, okay?
And too often I would push a girl's boundaries while I tried to get a hand on
Yes.
her bra. Do you know, pushing a girl's boundaries, when she has said no, there's a word for that.
Sexual assault.
Yeah, exactly.
No shit, Sherlock, and the guy was not encouraging that, okay? Now get off of it.
And
So again, man, so much of this, and this is probably going to be a theme for the conversation, is again framed.
Again, this is one of the things that I go pointing out as uncharitability. It's like these people are saying, because you wrote this one past sinful story in your book at all, therefore that must mean that you are encouraging it, or at least that's the implication with the way that they are responding to it. It's like, no bullshit, they are encouraging it. With that particular story right there, Fred Stoeker, I believe they allege, yeah, obviously he's saying, or at least implying, that it was wrong that he was addicted to pornography and that he tried to commit sexual assault on a girl. No shit.
Not even the place to start. Like, just start with, you need to respect other people and you need to treat them like human beings, and they're not objects for you to indulge.
Did they really explicitly have to say, no, don't sexually assault women? No, don't rape women? I mean, it should be, I guess they were working under the assumption that it's a default that, yeah, no, you should not sexually assault or rape women. I mean, does every single anti-porn writer have to go on that, quite frankly, virtue signal? Should it not be like an already like realized thing that is wrong? I mean, it's not even like that they are like getting into some dicey territory of where they were all like getting into a subject that is very hot and spicy, saying something along the lines of rape is bad, but, or sexual assault is bad, but, or something else like that. It's not they were all like, but what was the woman wearing, or something like that.
In some sort of aggressive conquest or fantasy about. I just it's really yeah, and the way these narratives are gendered in the way that, like, to be,
well, it's a book that is specifically for men, just like Sheila Wray Gregoire wrote some books specifically for women. Now, obviously, I have never read any of the woman's books, but I'm not going to just assume that everything that she says is wrong just because the book was specifically for women or whatever. I mean, by this logic, should we say that it is wrong that Black Lives Matter calls themselves Black Lives Matter, that they are a specifically like Black rights activist group? I mean, just because that they their main goal is for rights of Black people does not mean that it's exclusively for the rights of Black people, and just, or saying let's give Black people their rights at the expense of other people. Now, a lot of people might say in response to that, a lot of my audience might say in response to that, the underlying intent of Black Lives Matter is, in fact, that intent. But just the statement alone of Black Lives Matter, and particularly the grassroots activists just who go sympathizing with the normie narrative of Black Lives Matter, does not necessarily mean that they all are like for Black people's rights at the expense of other people's rights. Just like that, Stephen Arturburn and Fred Stoeker were not writing this book for men at the expense of women, nor am I going to automatically assume that Sheila Wray Gregoire was writing, her books that is specifically targeted for women at the expense of men. Like, I don't know what you're getting at. Like, quote the excerpt of where that you get that implication, or else go home.
And then dangerously, we set young men up to expect that of themselves at the earliest age. You know, when you're within months perhaps of your awareness of these feelings and still trying to understand the world, and you're given these scripts not only from Hollywood, not only from the culture all around you, but also in the church. You're giving these scripts of masculinity that are not self-controlled, that are aggressive, that are violent, that are dehumanizing to not only yourself, but also obviously the women around you. That's and girls around you. I'm like,
what are you trying to imply there? That people are just encouraging rape and sexual assault left, right, and center? Where is that happening?
Arrived at the local drugstore. I'd be standing at the front door at opening time, even if I had to skip class to do it. I loved the Girls Next Door section in gallery, which featured pictures of nude girls taken by their boyfriends and submitted to the magazine for publication.
Ugh.
That's
disgusting, dude. He's not encouraging that.
non-consensual. Like, he's describing non-consensual pornography, because those pictures were submitted by the men, not by the girls.
You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to respond to that. We're already too long.
And nowhere does this book mention that this was non-consensual.
I think the implication was supposed to be pretty clear, woman. It was non-consensual, and that's a no-no. Oh God. These people have a problem that because it doesn't explicitly say XYZ, that therefore it must be trying to encourage XYZ. No. Or is, I don't know, be it inadvertently or intentionally encouraging XYZ. Well, maybe not intentionally. Sheila is not trying to say that they're intentionally encouraging XYZ, the type of porn that they be watching right here. But she says that because Stoeker and Arturburn are not making explicit statements in the way that Sheila wants them to go about this, that therefore it's wrong. That what they're saying is wrong. God.
Scene about masturbating in the parking lot, in the gym parking lot, in the rental car, that's in Every Man's Battle that I talk about a ton. That's in here too. They just simply talk about masturbating outside the school gym, in a car. Like all this.
I mean, it's an anti-pornography book, an anti-sexual immorality book. What do you expect them to bring up?
Same things are in this book that are in Every Man's Battle. They just change certain words so that it works for high schools.
Yeah.
What do you want? You want them to come up with completely new anecdotes, not reuse any anecdotes at all? And as far as the parking lot goes, I don't know if you know this, Sheila, but there are some 16 and 17-year-olds who go driving and can be in a church parking lot and be looking at a nude magazine. It is possible. So again, there's the overlap right there.
Men primarily receive intimacy just before and during intercourse. Women gain intimacy through touching, sharing, hugging, and communicating deeply. And then they say later, when you bring yourself to orgasm while fantasizing or viewing women on a glossy magazine page, you have a feeling of intimacy.
That's actually the complete opposite definition of intimacy.
I think I'm vaguely remembering this. Actually, maybe it's not that specific excerpt, but there are multiple excerpts in here of where that's both the writers are saying that it's a false intimacy. It's a simulated intimacy. They weren't trying to say that, oh yeah, the men get an intimacy out of just masturbating to a picture of a woman, and that is right. That's actual intimacy. No, no. I don't know. I'm not going to be as abrasive about it, but just not by my recollection. They aren't trying to say that that's an actual intimacy. They're trying to say, as you guys are overly uncharitably and overly combatively trying to say, that it is a false intimacy. You both parties are in agreement with this. Just one person is assuming they are in disagreement, or that they're not in agreement. Whatever.
In our men's groups, in our marriage intensives, is we do a lot of eye contact. So we about 12 inches apart, and they're staring in each other's eyes, right? The first day we do this exercise, it's awkward. And then we do what's called sentence stems. And so we, it's kind of a fairly quick psychological approach to say what I feel in my body is, and then they say it. And so as they're some of the deepest shame I feel is, and they're just completing those sentences kind of like a metronome, but they're doing it eye to eye, and they're realizing that I am terrified of being seen. I am terrified of being exposed, of actually knowing my true self. And when I can't actually think about it very much because the sentences are quick, right? It in a sense, it breaks down all of our normal masks that we hold, and we begin to get more comfortable with actually seeing each other and actually being known. Because that's the work of breaking down what we have sexualized and eroticized to make it all about, in a sense, sex rather than actually what we most crave, which is genuine connection.
Okay, and maybe you should work together with Fred Stoeker and Stephen Arturburn. They would probably agree with you on that. Like, instead of trying to take this overly combative assumption that no, they obviously disagree with me and everything that I'm going to, and absolutely everything that I'm going to say here, as far as how I think is a good way to try and ingrain into young men good, healthy relationships.
And I find this amazing that this entire book never talks about that. It doesn't talk about how men actually need connection. It just talks about how you are so drawn to sex and you need to control it so that one day you can have a great marriage with your wife.
Doubtful on that. I think I do remember there being some part in the book of where that they say that men do need a community, need to go out there. I mean, maybe there wasn't enough emphasis on that. I will at least agree as far as that goes. But just saying that there was absolutely nothing said about men needing community, just no. I'm kind of skeptical, but I don't have the time in my life to go through a dozen rereads of this book until I have everything memorized about it.
It's a very young adolescent. It's like a 12-year-old wrote the book, right? It's like a very young, but it's saying this is what healthy sex is, rather than, no, that is a very young adolescent view of sex.
Yes.
What is actually a mature, healthy view of sex is when you outgrow pornography, when you outgrow the pornographic mindset.
Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That's what they were trying to say. Outgrow the pornography. Get control of your sexual urges so that you don't resort to it at all. Yeah.
Hey, keep that thought, because I'm going to read you some quotes directly about that. Please. Okay. So here is the normalization of lust as part of being male. All right. So
what? Okay, maybe all right. Maybe in a way, I don't know. I think that is a total misnomer on Sheila's part. Normalization of lust. Sure, I guess you can go off on a limb and say that Arturburn and Stoeker are saying that lust is normal for humans, unless you are asexual and have no sexual preferences or urges at all. Therefore, lust is just going to be an ingrained part of you ever since that you hit puberty. But it's not like they're trying to normalize it as an okay, non-sinful thing. I mean, yeah, if you're of a non-Christian perspective, you're going to say that lust is you're gonna try and normalize lust and say that's okay. I mean, obviously, it kind of comes with the property.
Here's what they say. Referring to guys who lust, they say, now these guys are perverts and weirdos, but these men are not weirdos. They're your next door neighbors, your friend's father,
Okay.
maybe even your father. They're Sunday school teachers, ushers, and deacons, even pastors. And so they're
everybody has struggled with the lust, or even have like a, whether or not they manage to like get complete control of their lust and not act on it. Regardless, everybody ends up having some sort of lust every now and again within their average day-to-day life. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. What's the thing wrong with that statement?
They're normalizing here that every guy sees women as objects. That is the
No. Do you hear what she just put forth there? She just put forth there literally that if you have any lust at all, therefore you're looking at that person as you that you lust for as an object.
They're your next door neighbors, your friend's father,
Okay.
maybe even your father. They're Sunday school teachers, ushers, and deacons, even pastors. And so they're normalizing here that every guy sees women as objects.
Not at all. Not at all. Just because you lust for a person sexually does not mean that you look at them as an object. God. Is it because of feminism, or is it because of some super prudish version of Christianity or whatever? I mean, what ideology does this belief stem from? I don't care what ideology this belief stem from, but the belief that if you lust at all, therefore, if you lust for a person, therefore you're just looking at them as an object, I have disagreed with all my life. And it kind of brings me back to the example that I brought forth earlier, that if you are a lesbian lusting after other women, or if you're a gay guy lusting after other dudes, therefore you're looking at your own sex as objects, or even that person as object. I mean, the very moment that you start lusting for a person does not mean that you go throwing out the window every single conception of them being an actual person that you could like get to know, like ask what favorite music that is their favorite music. Ask if they're a Christian, what is their theology, what is their political beliefs, all that other kind of stuff. And more specifically for me, just because that I go lusting after women does not mean that I go viewing that particular woman that I am like lusting after as an object. I mean, before I go pursuing them sexually outside of my eyes, I guess if somebody wants to get pedantic and pull up that talking point. Aside from that, just because I go lusting after a woman does not mean that I am viewing that particular woman as just a piece of meat, as an object, as a piece of property or whatever. I'm going to want to get to know that woman before I pursue a relationship, like a full-on boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, much less marry or have sex with them. Heck no. A woman could be the hottest woman on earth, but if it turns out that they are some white guilting pro-abortion atheist, that is the moment that I see them as, I don't know, see them as not even a candidate for anything I want to do with them as far as sexual relationships go.
That is the normal part of being male. And then they say this, and being a boy means having certain qualities that come hardwired with the package. Why the prevalence of sexual sin among men? We got there naturally, simply by being male.
Ugh, gross.
Well, okay. Just the Andy's reactions right here, they're just rather unnecessary. It just, the way that he reacts to some of this stuff, it's like what's being read is not that controversial of stuff, in my opinion. And the fact that he gives this overly combative kind of reaction to it, it's just ridiculous. It just makes me want to laugh sometimes. And that was, when I first listened to that, it made me want to giggle even more. I mean, we can like kind of nitpick Stoeker and Arturburn for the fact that they did not say that women like even come hardwired with the urge and lust for sex. So for people for the sake of sex. I mean, like I kind of said earlier, the very moment that you hit puberty, that is when that you really have a lust for other people. And again, unless you're asexual, it's not gonna like automatically go away. You can get it under control to where that maybe you don't feel it as much, if at all, but it's always going to be there to some extent or another. Again, unless you're asexual. And the fact that he disagrees with it, it's just alien to me.
I mean, this is the kind of, I mean, it's very similar to what's said in Every Man's Battle.
Yeah, it's actually almost word for word. That part.
And what's the issue?
From what I can tell, and that is, if I were to boil it down, that is.
I mean, I got just one question. You know what? The Light and the Glory. Have any of y'all heard of the one book called The Light and the Glory? Oh, dang, it has been a long time since I have read that book. And, I never even finished that book. I should probably see if I can borrow it from my mom and give it a fuller read. But regardless, they have Light and the Glory and Light and the Glory for kids. I mean, obviously, there is going to be a lot of overlap as far as what is said between the kid version and the adult version of a book. So by extension, them having a problem with the fact that they take excerpts from the adult version and put it in the kid version as well. Do they have a problem with that with Light and the Glory as well? This is ridiculous.
Almost the thesis of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find kind of at core most objectionable about this book series and its vision of masculinity as inevitably hypersexual, hypererotic, lacking self-control.
They are okay. He said lacking self-control, but to everything else that he said right before that, they're trying to say that is part of men's primal urges. Not saying that men should actually go out and do that, and lack of self-control. No. Stoeker and Arturburn might be saying in this book that it's hard to get self-control. Everyone can say it's hard to get self-control. But they aren't trying to encourage the idea that, men just lack self-control, so let's just give up on ever them having self-control or anything like that.
That's just kind of part of the deal by default.
Yeah. And in that, it literally gives men such a pass.
Yeah.
No, you asshole. Arturburn and Stoeker were never given a pass to the idea that men to just go ahead and watch whatever porn that they want, do whatever promiscuous sex that they want outside of marriage or adulterous affairs or otherwise. No. Absolutely not. You lying hack. Stoeker and Arturburn objectively are not giving a free pass for men to just go ahead and have whatever fucking sex that they want.
You're just these helpless baby cavemen who literally have no choice but to.
Okay, so it wasn't a different lie, but it's tied in with his lie. The idea of you men are just these helpless baby cavemen. No, there was no point in this book of where that they said anything like that. He said that got those primal urges. But you're not a baby caveman. You're, in fact, a grown man who is able to get control of himself, therefore not making you a baby caveman. You know what a baby caveman is? It's somebody who would, inevitably lack all sense of self-control and just practically deserves to be locked up in a mental hospital because they're just raping whatever and sexually assaulting whatever woman that they can without any shame or ability to stop them minus physical force. That would be a baby caveman right there. But that's not what that Stoeker and Arturburn are trying to preach right here. Andy, you freaking hack.
Act out sexually and consume whoever it is. And it's just
yes.
That is wrong. Whatever criticisms that these people might have about Every Young Man's Battle that might have some sense of water to it, This does not have any validity to it in the least bit, and it's just a flat out lie on Andrew Bauman's part. Stoeker and Arturburn are not saying they're these baby cavemen who just lack all sense of self-control and can just act out and consume everyone that they want to. No.
In it. I get in trouble and sometimes being like, oh, you're anti-man. It's like, oh, it's the complete opposite. I'm so for men that I actually believe that they're more capable than just being baby cavemen, but that they can actually.
So are Stoeker and Arturburn trying to say the same thing. That we men are not just baby cavemen.
Grow into healthy, emotionally mature men. Like, I believe in men so deeply. We're way more capable than what.
Then why would you try and drag through the mud two man's men like Stoeker and Arturburn in this completely dishonest way?
So I'm going to read you some of those titillating and erotic descriptions. So talking about just lust, they say this: when some hot looking babe in a French bikini walks by your beach towel, your eyes have the habit of locking on her, sliding up and down.
Facts. But you should not do that, as they are trying to say.
When the cheerleader with the biggest breasts walks past you in the hall, your eyes run away with her. When the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue arrives in your mailbox every Friday, you fantasize over the curves and crevices.
There's another disgust reaction on Andy Bauman's part. What was... That's the worst that you got? That was pretty mild by comparison to what R-rated or even PG-13 bordering on R-rated like sex scenes might try and provide in movies or whatever. Oh yeah, this woman is curvy. This woman is in a French bikini. This woman has big old breasts. That's the worst of it? That's like nothing worse than a PG-rated cartoon.
But that's different. Just seeing beauty and being aroused by it. I actually think we're meant for that. We're meant to be aroused by beauty, but that's very different.
Wait, what? What? How the fuck is that any different from what Fred Stoeker and Stephen Arturburn said? They are literally just a few minutes ago, these hacks gone criticizing the idea that Stoeker and Arturburn say that it is pretty much an ingrained thing in men to lust. And now Andy is like saying pretty much the same thing, but with different wording by saying, we are meant for that. Here, let's listen to that again.
Power it, but learn how to honor beauty. Learn how to honor the beauty of that God created, and arousal can be normal, but that's different. Just seeing beauty.
Arousal can be normal. Apparently, I did not react to that part, but again, that's another thing that Stoeker and Arturburn were saying. But just because Stoeker and Arturburn were saying it, therefore it's wrong. But when Andy Bauman says it, therefore it's right. This is starting to remind me of like Trump derangement syndrome or any kind of derangement syndrome. That because your opposition says it, therefore it must be wrong. It's like if these people are having Stoeker and Arturburn derangement syndrome. That because Stoeker and Arturburn say it, it must be wrong. But when I say it, it must be right. Fuck you, dude. No, seriously. Like, sorry that if I'm not being nice, but I'm not going to put up with this underhanded, dishonest smearing that Andy is doing. This is just, you want to talk about disgusting? This kind of attitude right here is the thing that's disgusting, more so than the descriptions of sexual imagery that Stoeker and Arturburn written in their book.
So in the book, they consistently show that lust for men is normal. They don't have any example.
What? No, okay. I'm going to try to remain calm as far as here and not get animated. Maybe she's not trying to say that they're saying that. Maybe she's not trying to say that Stoeker and Arturburn are saying it's not natural for women and just natural for men only. But I don't know. I guess I want to like clarify that I do think it's natural for both sexes to one extent or another.
Examples that I could find of boys actually treating women with respect and honor. They might have examples of guys notes. Yeah. So in the book, they consistently show that lust for men as normal. They don't have any examples that I could find of boys actually treating women with respect and honor. They might have.
Yeah, and do you think that they are trying to bring forth those stories of boys treating women with disrespect and treating them like trash as like a good thing? That's not how I read it at any point in any of the examples that they brought forth in the book.
Examples of guys stopping lust, but never actually deliberately treating women with respect and honor, which we'll come back to in a minute. When they do talk about
Again, she's going about the approach that because they did not explicitly say X, that must mean that they are not encouraging X or don't believe in X. In this case, being treating women with respect. Because Stoeker and Arturburn did not explicitly say treat women with respect, therefore they're, I don't know, they're not for that or something. This is stupid.
Girls, they basically blame them for boys' sin. So here's just one.
Oh, that's okay. It sounded like that she was about to read an excerpt. I'm just gonna wait.
Example. Even Christian girls push their wardrobes far beyond modesty, sporting short shorts, tight t-shirts, and bare midriffs. You can get an eyeful and even masturbate from the memory when you get home later that night. How
Okay.
is that not putting ideas in guys' heads?
Nor,
Like,
but you shouldn't.
I know
Like,
they don't
it's-
say that. They don't like
But that would be objectifying an image bearer of God.
Yes.
And completely not healthy, because that
I don't even know where to start with this. Like, it's not like Stoeker and Arturburn were saying it's okay in that case. Maybe I need to rewind and give it one more listen to fully jot it down.
Christian girls push their wardrobes far beyond modesty, sporting short shorts, tight t-shirts, and bare midriffs. You can get an eyeful and even masturbate from the memory when you get home later that night.
What I got from that is that they're just basically trying to say that it's hard for a man. I mean, regardless of how modest or immodest women might be, like, I guess I can somewhat see how that they might be implying that, or they think that Stoeker and Arturburn are implying it's women's fault, but I don't think that is at all what they were trying to say. They're still trying to say, ultimately, the sin is on you, young man reading this part of my book here. But at the same time, they're just trying to say that it doesn't help, honestly. That you would have women like, I don't know, showing the very bottom of their part of their buttocks or whatever.
Yeah, no, I should specify. They do say, you're not supposed to masturbate. You're not supposed to ever think about sex. They do say that repeatedly, that you're never supposed to think about sex. But by giving these anecdotes where boys are specifically masturbating at the memory of a girl that they know and not saying that is a sin against that girl.
Yes.
no consent.
Wait, what? No, they did like go touching onto those concepts that if you masturbate to like the image that you have of that girl. I mean, I'm not so sure if I like fully agree with the way that they framed it. I would have to like I said, I don't have the excerpt right in front of me that I can like pull up myself out of the book so that I can like respond to it and go specifying exactly how I disagree with Stoeker and Arturburn. But they basically do actually go on the same concept that you do, that Bare Marriage podcast here is talking about. That it is a bit of a dishonoring of the very woman that you go thinking back on and you go like masturbating to. They essentially go saying that. So you're just full of crap.
So here we're talking about women only in terms, or girls, because remember, this is directed at boys. So we're talking about minors often in terms of just their body parts. And then they say this, obviously stripping off her clothes in the basement at the after game party is a wrong way to address this, but it's just as wrong to stare lustfully at her and fantasize in your mind. Neither practice is any more pure than the other. Now, I agree that both things are wrong, but one of them, you're actually assaulting a girl.
Wait, what? 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 Where the fuck was the implication that you're committed, that in that example that they were bringing forth, that arbitrary example that they were bringing forth, that the dude is committing sexual assault on the woman? Where the fuck was that? Let me give one more re-listen.
Or girls, because remember, this is directed at boys. So we're talking about minors often in terms of just their body parts. And then they say this, obviously stripping off her clothes in the basement at the after game party is a wrong way to address this, but it's just as wrong to stare lustfully at her and fantasize in your mind. Neither practice is any more pure than the other. Now, I agree that both things are wrong, but one of them, you're actually assaulting a girl.
Oh my gosh. So it was exactly what I heard. There was no implication at all in an excerpt that you read, Sheila, that the man is committing sexual assault on the woman. Now, it does not close off the possibility at all that, yeah, there might be some sexual assault going on. But at the same time, you could strip a girl of her clothes and she's wanting you to do it. She's consenting to sex, but she's wanting you to help take her clothes off. It's not mutually exclusive. Again, just the freaking uncharitability and dishonesty.
He has already committed adultery in the heart. So I think there's been this moral equivalence in some people's kind of imagination around sexuality. Well, if I'm lusting after her, it's kind of the same as if I already did it. So what's the harm?
What? No, 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 no. Just because that a Christian preacher goes saying that lusting is just as sinful as actually physically having sex with somebody outside of marriage does not mean that they're trying to say that they're literally the same.
It creates a space where boys and men get stuck there. They actually lose their capacity or never grow into their capacity to see the people around them as human beings and not just bodies and body parts.
I don't know. Maybe that subject is supposed to be subject matter in a different book, talking about how to have a healthy dating relationship by Fred Stoeker and Stephen Arturburn or whatever. Let's just say rhetorically. I mean, one problem at a time, dude. First, you need to get the man to like dwindle their lust and their fixation and focusing on sexual body parts. And then we can talk about focus on the person, get to know the person.
And yeah, those quotes that you read are really disturbing in the sense that they actually don't even hold out aspirationally the fact that boys and men could think otherwise.
But not only do they...
That's bullshit. Just because they did not explicitly say it does not mean that they are against the idea, the aspiration that men and boys think of women as other than just body parts.
Ignore women's perspectives on that. What I find so interesting, though, is that this objectification transfers onto how they completely ignore women and what women experience in so many different areas. So at one point, Steve Arturburn is telling the story of how he...
They do not. Again, you're just lying. You're just lying, Sheila. At the end of the book, they gone writing down the 3 women that they helped, that they had to help testify for the sake of their book. They did pull in women's testimonies.
Got a girl pregnant when he was younger, and he pressured her to have an abortion, which she did. And as he's telling this story, he says, I had killed more than my baby. I had killed my life, and nothing would ever be the same again. And he does express remorse over this. But what I find so interesting is in telling this story, never once does he show any remorse for what his girlfriend was feeling.
I mean, maybe it's because the woman is not remorseful. Maybe it's because talking about, let's say rhetorically, oh, my girlfriend was actually willing to go along with it. She actually did want to get the abortion. She, in fact, beats her chest proudly about how she got an abortion. Maybe if he's afraid that if he was to actually say that, that would like dwindle or at least be a non sequitur deviation from what the main point is that what he is trying to bring up. is that sex outside of marriage is wrong, and it can cause you to want an abortion, like I did, quote unquote. I mean, what do these people want, honestly? Do they want every single freaking time that they go talking about a woman or an experience with a woman, they every single freaking time go talking about the woman's perspective? How much longer would the book be in that case? Because again, it's not like that they completely disincluded any and all women. Even if they did like not put forth any women's testimonies, I don't know if I would like automatically have a problem with the book or anything like that, even at that point, in the same way that these people are.
Or what he put her through. It's only how he affected himself.
Yeah. And isn't that the norm of so much of church leadership? We don't actually think about the
I wonder if this woman would have the same kind of problem if there was a book that was specifically a message for women from a woman's perspective. If they were to talk about a woman's experience with a man, but did not actually talk about the man's perspective, would she equally have as much of a problem with that? Something tells me that she wouldn't, honestly, because that's honestly how uncharitable and almost partisan that Sheila Wray Gregoire is being right now. Like, I don't even think it's anything inherently wrong that if you go talking about one person's point of view, it is wrong for you to not be including the other person's point of view at the same time.
We talking about lightly rubbing your chin, like this is just strange language. Or how about this one? She's so full-bodied, and the guys in the locker room have told me she's kind of loose about what she'll do with you. I know she'd never pay any attention to me, but I found this picture of her in her tight volleyball shorts, and I've masturbated over that picture a million times. Again, like not recognizing that these are actual people.
How is it not a recognition that it's actual people? Just pointing out how a person looks. Oh God, this is just, there is some misconception that we like have in general in society, or with some segments of society anyways, that if you go talking about a person's like physical features, like even of how that they're dressing or whatever, that therefore you're like not considering the person at all. And this is just another case of that, and I have to wholly disagree with it. Anyway,
again, I don't, similar to what Zach said earlier, I don't want to psychoanalyze too much, but it just feels like they're
bullshit. You've already done too much psychoanalyzing as it was. You're assuming of their intent, trying to say that, they're trying to say that men have no self-control. They're just a bunch of baby cavemen. Fuck off.
Okay, now I want to talk about where they actually talk about abuse, what I think is date rape or abuse or some kind of abuse, or crimes, and they never describe them as such. They never describe these as any form of assault.
Never mind. I kind of have my doubts here, but
so returning to the girl next door porn that we were talking about earlier, he says, I still remember the short, full-bodied Asian girl standing nude in the wheat field after she won the girl next door contest. So again, that is non-consensual porn. And he's bragging about that.
And
Nope. Trying to warn about that. Trying to give an ode, a warning against that. With what you just merely read right there, I did not hear the braggadocious part about that. Oh, I was a peeping Tom with some short, curvaceous Asian girl or something like that. Again, oh man, if every single time that they gone talking about a crime, if every single time that they go talking about how they had sex outside of marriage with a woman, they were all like, oh, this is a crime. Don't do crime, kids. Or, oh, this other woman, this is how she feels and so forth. this book would probably be an extra 50 to 100 pages longer. And honestly, I don't see it as inherently necessary for, especially not every single time that they go talking about something. They're just working under the assumption that, yeah, being a peeping Tom is wrong, folks. I mean, if there really are some boys out there that do not know that being a peeping Tom is wrong, then is that a fault on Fred Stoeker and Stephen Arturburn? Or is that the fault of the parents of that said boy who is reading the book Every Young Man's Battle and reading about the story of the peeping Tom? Whose fault is it? The parents, of course.
Here's another one. With no mom around and a junior high girl down the street who comes over to my house every afternoon and lets me do anything I want to her. What's the big deal? It's fun and she wants it. And they're telling this story of a boy saying this, but they're not acknowledging that junior high girls, that is like not okay. No matter.
What the fuck? It's the entire book is about the subject of all these stories are not okay. Does it really have to put forth the disclaimer after every single time they tell a story? Again, this is not okay. Tell a story. Again, this is not okay right here. What was described in the story? Tell the story again. Also with this story, like we said with the past few dozen other stories that we presented, this wasn't okay what went down here. Oh, what a I can't even grasp this. The amount of malicious intent being assumed, or just the bad faith, uncharitability happening right here. It's frustrating.
They've got this one that's the same. Like I said, this one's the same as Every Man's Battle. They just changed a few words. Maybe you've driven your car to the parking lot of a local gym after school, watching scantily clad classmates bouncing in and out, fantasizing, even masturbating in the car. Masturbating in a car in public is a crime, but they never mention that.
Oh, God. I'm just so tired of how many times that these people go saying, I want them to describe it's a crime. I don't think, you know what? I think this is a bit of projection right here. Andy Bauman was saying earlier of how Stoeker and Arturburn are saying that men are a bunch of baby cavemen. I think that's a bit of projection. Not on his part. I'm not saying that he's the one who actually thinks it, but I think Sheila here actually thinks that us men are a bunch of baby cavemen. That we need it to be described to us in painstaking kindergarten level of clarification detail to say, this is a crime, kids, don't do it. Oh, jeez. That does not have to be said every single freaking time that they go telling a story of a sexual misadventure. Sheila? Oh, I'm getting a headache from this.
The effect I fear is that it just gives boys a free pass.
No, fuck no. Come on. Don't. Okay. I was willing to be nice to Zach Wagner up until this point. He's trying to say that the book is just giving boys a free pass. Like, fuck no. The book is all about how young boys should not be having promiscuous sex or committing sexual assault, I guess more specifically, or looking at porn. What do you... Why are they trying so hard to try and lie to say that the book was trying to do the opposite of what it actually does? You can argue all you want that Every Young Man's Battle is like sloppy or whatever else have you. That's fine. Those criticisms might be a little bit more open for discussion. But to say that the Stoeker and Arturburn are trying to say that sex outside of marriage or lust or anything like that is okay is a complete bald-faced lie.
It normalizes all of these, not just like worse than objectifying, like radically dehumanizing behaviors, and just says, well,
no, again, it's not. What a freaking disgusting echo chamber this is.
Talk about broadcasting yourself masturbating to 5 different girls. So they're talking, on the web doing that. And then they give these examples, which I think are date rape. See what you think. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. I think this is date rape.
Okay. I mean, okay. The fact that she is like trying to like read all these stories and is like framing them in the way that she is. Reading a story and saying, that's sexual assault. Or saying, in this case, this is a date rape or whatever. And the fact that every young man's battle is at least trying to imply that these particular stories are not okay. These actions are not okay. But the fact that she keeps on like obsessing on them so much makes me almost wonder, is she thinking, oh, this guy just outed himself. We need to like go through the back catalog of crimes that he has ever committed and lock him up and throw away the key or something like that. I do not know what is up with this.
They talk about broadcasting yourself masturbating to 5 different girls. So they're talking, on the web doing that. And then they give these examples, which I think are date rape. See what you think. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. I think this is date rape. I remember the time, they're quoting a girl. I remember the time when a girl I really liked.
She admits it. She said it herself. They're quoting a girl. Sheila Wray Gregoire, you fucking utter dumbass. You earlier in this podcast said that Stoeker and Arturburn do not consider the woman's opinions, do not mention anything about the woman's perspective, and now you are reading the very woman's perspective that was included in the book. Cognitive dissonance much? Excuse me, slurring my words right now.
Tried some things that made me uncomfortable. I asked him to stop, but he persisted. Finally, he just wore me down, and I eventually gave in. He had weakened my defenses.
Yeah, and that story is read as a way to say as to why that men should take control of their own sexual urges and not do XYZ practice that they go condemning in the story. This is going to be interesting what her follow-up has to say about after reading this woman's testimony right here.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, that's date rape, but they describe this as going too far.
Assault.
Oh, God. Oh, my Lord. Oh. Just because that the book does not go using the exact terminology that she wants them to use, therefore, they are somehow in the wrong. This is like saying that some person who was like, I don't know, casually using racial slurs in a rather uncalled for way, that a person criticizing it is all like, it's rude. And then person number 3 comes in and is all like, no, that's racism. And then getting on the person's case for that because he did not use the exact wording that person number 3 wanted person number 2 to use. This is stupid. Yeah, it's date rape. I get it. I agree. But the fact that they did not use the actual term date rape and instead had gone saying it goes too far is nothing inherently wrong, Sheila. It does not mean that Stoeker and Arturburn are somehow wrong or malicious in this. This is... read the chat some more. Why does every feminist blow each remark out of proportion? Asks Zachary Colley. Yeah, exactly. Or it meant to say, that's the sound that he meant to say in the live chat here. Zio Gold says, we got a full-blown feminist here, folks. Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is assault. Here's another one. A girl says this too. When I resist, he pouts or asks why I don't desire him physically. I hate making him feel bad and having the blame pushed back on me, so sometimes I have given in.
Yes. That would be a temper tantrum that these little boys are throwing because they can't get sex.
They were saying that it was wrong. They were saying essentially that the boyfriend was being wrong in their treatment of the girl. Why are you acting and saying this statement like if Stephen Arturburn and Fred Stoeker are in disagreement, you putz. Zachary Colley says in the live chat. Oh, I already read that one. The amount of appeals to silence is so staggering, right? You're right. It's exactly that mentality, Zachary Colley. Silence is violence. If you don't say exactly the thing in the way that I want you to, therefore that must mean that you are in agreement with the opposite thing.
And that your penis does not have to dictate all that you do in your life.
And they weren't saying that. Stoeker and Arturburn were not saying that penis like dictates all you do in life. They're saying take control of your penis, essentially, in a way. You know, with the amount of, I don't even get why exactly that these three have to do the amount of dishonesty and uncharitability that they are doing right here. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I expect this amount of uncharitability and the like from an anti-theist who would be responding to a Christian anti-porn person or a Christian like at all. I do not ever expect this high amount of uncharitability from one Christian to another Christian. It's just magnitudes unfounded for me, quite honestly. The only thing that makes sense to me, like I said a little bit earlier, as to why they would be uncharitable, is that they are like trying so freaking hard to try and market their own programs to get people to pay them, like Andy Bauman with his program, so hard to market out Andy Bauman's seminars, get people to like go to his seminars, pay for his seminars, and so forth. And how do they do that? They're trying to knock Stoeker and Arturburn completely out of the competition as far as anti-porn Christian seminars go. Excuse me.
But one thing that he did do is he's
talking about a guy named Joshua Harris, by the way. I just realized that my pause was a bit too long.
Listened and heard from people who found a lot of the ideas in his book harmful, and he took the step of going to the publisher and saying, you know what, can we just not do this anymore? And he is not collecting royalty checks on I Kissed Dating Goodbye, which is a very different conversation from the one we're having.
Well, here's the thing. You need to actually go to Stoeker and Arturburn like in person and like, I don't know, maybe have a debate with them or something to try and convince them that maybe they should pull it down. I mean, that is if I was to fully agree with these three on their narrative of every young man's battle. But I don't, ultimately.
But I do respect him for that.
Yeah, I do too. And I asked for several of my books. Like, I understand. I wrote stuff in 2003, 2004 that I regret, and I took it out of print. You know, I asked the publisher to take it out of print. So, like, I get that. I get that it wasn't perfect. The problem I'm having is that people are still using this. And Steve Arturburn has never apologized for this.
Yeah.
What is there to apologize for? Oh my gosh. She's trying to act like that there was... Now she's full mask off, trying to say that Stephen Arturburn is like some malicious, evil actor or something that needs to apologize for something. There's a difference of opinion of theology, a difference of belief on that front. Is he really supposed to apologize? Oh, I'm sorry for disagreeing with you, Sheila Wray Gregoire. I'm going to take down my book now because you are right and your opinion matters more than any other anti-porn activist. Aside from maybe Andrew Bauman.
And even if you look at his website today, if you look at the way he talks about this today, it is still not about respecting women. It is not about dignity of women. It is simply about if you sin sexually, you have sinned against your own purity.
That's not wrong.
She seems irrelevant. He has a page on his website about bouncing your eyes where he talks about how you need to make a list of your enemies, and included in that is female joggers. So he calls female joggers his enemy.
What? Are you really trying to take that in a literal sense? Oh, yeah. As president of all of manhood, everybody, I hereby declare war against all female joggers. We should round them up at gunpoint and throw them in jail and maybe even give them the bullet. No, this is stupid. It's a metaphor, Sheila, to try and say that anything that causes you to lust is your enemy as far as your walk with Christ goes. It's not to say that the person himself, a female jogger, is your enemy or something, political or physically or otherwise. No, it's just trying to say that these are the things that you should avoid.
So dehumanizing.
Yeah, it really is. Okay.
Wow, talk about a big fat miscontextualizing. And quite frankly, this is like an intentional taking out of context. I don't even know why I'm finding this more funny than enraging. I mean, it really is enraging the way that they are trying to say that, oh, female jogger is your enemy. Oh, that must mean that they are like literally wanting to go to war against female joggers, want to kill them all and stuff like that. Like, when that couldn't be further from the truth. Oh, God.
It's great. Like, we can white knuckle it for a little while, right?
Yes,
like
just a little while.
I remember all the things I would do for my 13-year addiction to pornography, and all the guilt and the prayers and it's like, it didn't work, right? Accountability group, where we'd literally just walk into the church, we'd confess that we masturbated and relapsed. We'd all say, yeah, oh, sorry, dude, you're awesome, still. And then we created this thing called the jackpot. If you masturbated, you had to put $5 in the church ceiling. It's like, it's just
the jackpot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry, that took me a second.
That's actually a funny pun right there, but lewdness right there, folks. Why are you being so descriptive right now? Jacking off, jackpot. Why are you being so lewd, you feminist bear marriage podcast? Why? That's a no on you. No, I'm not these hacks.
Because I truly believe, God is truth. And the more we live in truth, the more we experience God. And I truly think when we live authentically, we actually defeat the need for using porn, right? Because if I'm authentic when I'm using porn, then I'm going to say, oh, wait, I'm actually contributing to sex trafficking. I'm actually objectifying image of God. I'm actually using this to hide from myself.
And they said that. Human trafficking is done in the production of some porn. And if you watch a piece of porn that involved human trafficking, then you are like contributing to that. They admitted that. So don't act like that they did not.
Mm-hmm. So they really just have no clue. Like this is what I find so frustrating is they've written all of these books about how to win the battle, and they have no clue how to actually win the battle. Like at one point, Steve Arturburn actually
blah, 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 blah. You know what? You aren't exactly helping with the winning of that battle when you guys be a whole bunch of dishonest, uncharitable hacks. Like, honestly, I'm not going to even like defend the statement right there that Stoeker and Arturburn are not the knockout solution for winning that battle. I'm not. But at the same time, neither is Sheila, Andrew, or Zachary with their dishonest, like, hackery right here. Honestly, it's just derailing the conversation more than anything. It's frustrating the conversation as far as being against porn and trying to stave away from that and, and so on and so forth. Like, this is something that I want to be able to tackle, but the fact that you got people like this that just are all kinds of dishonest and uncharitable just makes the solution of the discussion a lot worse, for me anyways. And honestly, I think that anybody who actually pays attention to everything, the substance in this book, as well as the quote-unquote substance in this podcast, would actually realize that as well. That it's just... the podcast is not any more helpful than the book Every Young Man's Battle, but in a different kind of way.
I guess if child abuse, what I find so interesting is if it is child abuse, and it is actually in the criminal code in Canada and probably in many states too, to introduce porn to young children. Like that is a form of child abuse. And we know that introducing porn to young children can cause trauma and all kinds of issues, right?
And this is not an introduction to porn. This is an introduction to an ode and a warning of it, and also trying to introduce somewhat a solution. Maybe not a strong enough solution, but a solution nonetheless to that.
I fail to see how this book is not that.
Mm-hmm.
And I fail to agree with your narrative of that.
With the salacious descriptions of pornography that are in it, with the salacious and titillating descriptions of women's bodies and what illegal activity.
Oh, big boobs exist. Oh, you introduced porn to this person.
And I would argue, let's also create other materials. Let's continue.
Yes.
Not just
Yeah, let's create other materials that lies about other people's material. That is totally a solution, dude. Totally.
And anything else any other books that you've got that are especially relevant for this?
Yeah, more recent one is How Not to Be an Ass, Becoming a Safe Man. So basically, men, if you're interested in breaking kind of some of these societal norms of masculinity and really blazing a new trail of how to be a kind and good man.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, I am not going to. Sure, there are like some bad stereotypes of what is like envisioned to be a man. That the idea of like never crying. I mean, quite honestly, I have my moments of where I probably cry more often than say my dad would like me to. A whole lot more, just as an arbitrary example. But regardless, all the same, I am not taking any of your advice on how to be a healthy man, dude. With what dishonesty and uncharitability that you just displayed during this whole podcast. So, no thanks.
It was a hard one. We do have a one-sheet download that summarizes all of the things that we talked about in today's podcast. And I will put the link in the podcast notes so that you can get that download. If you have youth pastors, Christian school principals, pastors, anyone who is recommending this book, please show them the download. Just print it out. It's double-sided.
Is there a different response that I can show to people other than your dishonest, uncharitable hackery, Sheila? Because I would not recommend this to anybody. This is just really just you go talking about how the book is poison. Honestly, your podcast is poison.
It's not overly long. I've summarized everything, but it gets to the heart of why this book is such a problem.
Your podcast is a problem too, but in slightly different ways.
On Twitter this week, I was having some interesting conversations. And one of the thoughts that I brought up is that I think one of the reasons that every man's battle philosophy got so big in the evangelical church is that it allowed men to keep objectifying women while they felt like they were doing the hard work of defeating lust.
Again with the assumptions, and even in the outro, this podcast and Sheila just cannot help but spout off her uncharitabilities, it's uncharitability more than dishonesty, saying that Arturburn and Stoeker are trying to, I don't know, just encourage men to not view women as people and instead view them as property or whatever. At no point in my own personal reading of this book, at no point did I ever think in reading this that they were trying to encourage the idea that women are just property, that I'll just shut up and get back to work in the kitchen or something like that.